welcome to November and the Michael Brown Show on WLVS. Michael Brown, your host. And on the ones and twos, I got Dizzy. Dizzy. D-I-D-E. Dizzy. You got Dizzy on the one and twos. And his able assistant, Kevin. Oh, just simple Kevin. Well, welcome. We had a packed show tonight, besides going over some of our usual issues from impeachment to the 2020 election updates. Obviously, our Mr. Potato Head Award at the end of the show. We will also have a candidate running for office in College Park, Maryland, running for mayor, as a matter of fact. She'll be Skyping in around 6:30, so we'll be able to ask her some questions, talk about her get out the vote strategy as she gets ready for tomorrow's elections. As you know, in this region, not in the District of Columbia, but in Maryland and Virginia, there are a wide range of offices up. Virginia have huge historical implications tomorrow in their elections, because right now you have a governor that's Democrat, and then the House and the Senate are both controlled by Republicans, but by a very, very thin margin, razor thin. Then, if it does flip, it'll have a lot of indication about what's going to happen in the 2020 elections. Clearly, 45 and his party would like to keep that state partly red, because it's not a red state anymore. It's a purple state. It's not a blue state. It's a purple state. But it's starting to trend blue. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Also, the state of Maryland. A lot of races in our area. Gaithersburg, Bowie, Laurel. You name it. They're all over the place. Please make sure you get out and vote tomorrow. And if you're wondering, in Virginia, the polls are open at 6 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. And in Maryland, it's from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you have ample time to get out and vote for your favorite candidate and or issue in Maryland and Virginia. One of the only next year in the 2020 election, you'll really have more of some of these redistricting issues. Redistricting is when you draw lines about where districts are and how people vote. Well, there's going to be a big redistricting map drawn next year all over the country. So these are big elections, because whoever is in control of these local legislative bodies control how the maps are drawn. And that means like I'll give you a prime example of how you violate gerrymandering, which is basically how to draw a district. North Carolina A&T, which is in North Carolina. Well, the Republican legislative body wanted to break up those votes. So what they did was they drew a line directly through North Carolina A&T's campus. So that way, only half of those students, they wouldn't be able to make sure that they have a majority to help support their particular candidate. And you don't split up universities. But that's, as you've heard me say a million times, elections have consequences. And so again, who's ever in control of those states' legislative bodies control how the maps are drawn. So tomorrow, big races in Virginia, Maryland. Oh, by the way, in Dumfries, Virginia, there's an initiative up for gaming and gambling in that jurisdiction. So that'll be, I'm sure, hotly watched by the surrounding jurisdictions. Before we get also into kind of the news of the day, again, impeachment and the 2020 election updates. First, a couple things. First, as you know, our studio is right across the street from Howard University, and Howard University's hospital is now exploring closing the current hospital and moving it somewhere else on campus and building a state-of-the-art hospital in this part of the city. Also, on the rumor front, I think it's more than the rumor now, Kwesi Mfume, the former House of Representatives congressperson from the state of Maryland who represented Baltimore, the seat that Elijah Cummings has occupied over the last 20 years. As a matter of fact, Kwesi Mfume had that seat before Mr. Cummings. Well, Mr. Mfume is thinking of running again to run for that seat, along with Mr. Cummings, or late Congressman Cummings' wife, is also thinking about running. So it's going to be an interesting race in Baltimore. Now, this weekend, saw the movie Harriet, about Harriet Tubman. And if you have not seen it, it is an absolute must see. Harriet Tubman, not just a hero, but a pioneer who actually just did astonishing things in saving slaves and bringing them from the South to the North to freedom. And what she did in this movie, depicted by an incredible actress that I'm sure will be nominated for an Oscar, showed what stick-to-itiveness and perseverance is all about. And I challenge you to find 5, 4, 3 American women in our history that were more impactful than Harriet Tubman. Now, you may say, oh, Betsy Ross, Martha Washington, may say Oprah Winfrey. Clearly people that are worth the discussion, absolutely no question. But after you watch this movie, if you don't have Harriet Tubman certainly in your top 5, some would even say top 3, and others would say maybe number 1, then you didn't see the same movie I saw. So get out and see Harriet. It's about history. It's about who we are as a people. And keep in mind, the slavery part of American history isn't just about black people. It's about American history. And I know some folks try to wash it away and make it seem like slavery only lasted a couple years. Slavery lasted over a century and maybe even 2. So to try to pretend like it never happened, this movie I think will be very helpful to you. Another also incredible pioneer, leader, impactful, game changer. Now some folks would say that his tactics were not right. But Nat Turner, Reverend Nat Turner, also changed the course of history. Now, he took matters into his own hands when it came to slavery. He said anybody that owned slaves should be killed. And he said God told him to do that. And so if you need a movie to watch related to that, it's, make sure I have the name of the movie correct. Birth of a Nation. It's about Nat Turner. So you can go on demand on that. For Harriet, you got to actually go to the theater and check it out. So 2 incredible people related to our history about slavery. And for those who, I know we binge and watch our shows, but keep in mind, if you really want to binge something, go binge a show from 1976-77 called Roots, which really is about basically the history of black people coming from Africa, enslaved, and what slavery was like. And it's a several-part series, but it'll give you a good idea about what history was like, American history was like for black people. Now, obviously, we had big sports news last week. Congratulations to the Washington Nationals. They are now world champions. They won the World Series in Houston last week. And congratulations to them. There was a big parade Saturday here in Washington, D.C., and they went to go visit 45 today. Not all the players. Some players did not go. Mr. Rondon did not go. Doolittle did not go. Michael Taylor did not go. And there's a list of others that did not go. But Doolittle made a point to put out a statement of why he did not go. Now, Doolittle was one of the relief pitchers for the Nationals. Had a big beard, played obviously very often. Now, his issue was related strictly to how 45, what he says on his Twitter feed from the White House. He happens to have a family member that has autism, so he didn't like how 45 teased and mocked a disabled reporter. So he had several reasons why he didn't come and he didn't show up. But congratulations for the Nats. Well done, especially winning it on someone else's field. Well, my burgundy and gold did not do well again yesterday. They're now 1-8. We hope Haskins develops as quickly as possible. I know you're tired of me talking about the same thing every week about my Skins, but they are just not playing very well at all. It's very disappointing. But to the folks up the street, the Baltimore Ravens, you know, a whole different situation. Took down Tom Brady and the New England Patriots on national television. And good for them. Redskins are my first team. My second team is right up 95, Baltimore Ravens. So congratulations to them. Yes, and a host of other great games in the NFL. Now that we're rolling towards December and the playoffs, I think these games are going to continue to get better. The stakes are getting higher. And obviously, a lot has to do with how you play on the field and what your record says, whether you're going to go to the playoffs or not. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get back into talking about an impeachment update, talk a little bit about the 2020 election, where we are there, and then, as I mentioned, we'll have a candidate for mayor of College Park, Maryland, Skyping in to WLVS on the Michael Brown Show. We'll see you right back. welcome back to the Michael Brown Show. And I talked about we would start talking about the 2020 election and impeachment. We just had a great talk about Harriet Tubman. And I didn't mention, I know I mentioned Nat Turner. I did mention also Frederick Douglass, who clearly played a key role in that time period, along with Abraham Lincoln, obviously. But I wanted to give a special shout out to Harriet. And now that we've done that, we're actually now joined by a candidate for mayor of College Park, Maryland, Nikisha Pancho.
Yes,
So, Nick, can you hear me? There you are, Nick.
I can hear you.
Well,
Hi, there
well,
you are.
well, welcome to the Michael Brown Show.
Hey, Michael.
Well, first, in case you know, as I mentioned earlier in the show, there are big elections all over the state of Virginia and Maryland. Tomorrow, the District of Columbia is not voting for anything. But
Right.
for you Maryland residents,
Yes,
especially if you live in College Park,
that's right.
there
College
is an
Park.
election tomorrow, not just for city council, but
No.
also for mayor. And we're
Yes.
happy to have one of those candidates here, Nikisha. She'll be on the ballot as Nikisha, but we call her Nikki
Yes.
Poncho. So, Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about your campaign, why you're running, and what the issues you think are so important to the residents of College Park?
Yes, and it's funny because now the residents of College Park are now calling me Nikki.
They can blame. They can
It's
blame me
really
for that.
funny. Everyone's calling me Nikki now. In the last debate, the moderator started off the debate saying, "And we have Nikki Pacho." I was like, "Oh, that's cute." I was like, "Yes, I like being called Nikki." So yes, I am running. And I say it every debate. I never imagined 16 years ago, when as a single mother, divorced mother, that I would be running for mayor. I always knew that politics was always going to be a next step for me, working in the community and doing all the grassroots work that I do, because that's the type of family I was raised in. I just didn't know what level of politics. I started working at the U.S. Conference of Mayors a few years ago, and that really shaped and molded what I wanted to do in politics and how I wanted to start out. So I remember it was about 2 years ago, and I said, well, as soon as my children don't need me anymore, I'm ready. I'm going to run. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, and I'm ready to take politics on. And I realized, as I was taking my kids back to school, I said, these two are going to always need me. There's never going to be a moment when they're not going to need me. So let me now take the moment, seize the moment, and let's go. And here I am, deciding to take everything that I've done my whole life, not just my adult life, my whole life, with feeding the hungry, clothing the hungry, mentoring to the youth. And I tell people all the time, I work day and night to keep kids out of jail, off the streets, in their homes, in school, get them off to college, or the ones that don't want to attend college, put them in job training programs. And I also work with seniors. I just this morning I dropped off food at Attic Tower, which you and I had conversations about the last time we spoke. I've been dropping food off over there for some of the seniors and the disabled who really can't get out. And a lot of budgets were cut with SNAP. So a lot of our seniors and our disabled, they don't get as much as they used to. So I've been getting a lot of donations. So I've been dropping off food there. And then I received some more donations for warm clothes with coats and hats and gloves. So I did that this morning, as well as door knocking. So I want to take the opportunity, and I want to stand up in my community and be a better leader. And I want to impact more lives on a bigger scale. That is why I am running.
And one of the other reasons why we all also choose to run, we're not either happy with the current leadership
Yes.
or there's a vacant seat. But
There
in this case,
in
there's
fact,
there's
that
an
is it. Yes.
there's an incumbent.
The
So
vacancy. Yes.
what is
Yes.
what is he not or she not doing that you think you can run against and be successful?
Well, my platform is I'm listening. And I'm listening because the current voices of College Park feel as though they're not being heard. A lot of people here in College Park feel as though they're being muted. So, we have the big university, the University of Maryland, and we have a lot of students who feel as though they have been muted as well. We have our residents who feel as though they're lost behind the university, and they feel as though our current elected officials aren't listening to them. They're filling out petitions and they're saying, no, we don't want this, or yes, we want this. No, we don't. We disagree with this type of ordinance, or we don't want these types of buildings here. We want more affordable housing. We want more help for our seniors, and it's not happening. So here I am, a voice for the voiceless. I'm listening, and that's what my platform says. I'm listening and taking action, and doing what I have done for the last 17 years in the community. I have to stop and listen in order to help people. I have to take the time to find out what's needed. So I'm already listening to people and I'm already taking action. So now I'm taking this up on a bigger scale, a broader scale, where I'm really trying to impact more lives. I'm really looking forward to helping more people. And unfortunately, that's what we're getting right now. A lot of the residents feel like they're not getting the help that they need. They're not being heard.
And it's interesting, Nick, when you had talked about your door knocking
Yes.
and campaigning and all the
Yes.
things you've been doing, dropping off food for
Yes.
folks that need it.
Yes.
Now, tomorrow's a whole different day. There's no door knocking tomorrow.
No
Tomorrow's all
door
about
knocking tomorrow.
People heard this term. It's an acronym, GOTV. That means get out the vote.
Yes.
So what are you doing to get your vote out to make sure that you're successful tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we have 3 polling locations tomorrow.
Can you
and
give
I will
those,
be out.
give those polling locations if you know them?
We have Ritchie Coliseum, which is on the University of Maryland campus, but it sits on Baltimore Avenue. Then we have another voting poll spot, which is Stamp Student Union, which sits right on Campus Drive, which is right on campus. Then we have one polling location that's off campus, which is Davis Hall. So we have 3 locations, and it doesn't matter where you live in the city. You can vote at either one of those locations tomorrow. And I will have volunteers at every location. I myself will be out at each location. Well, there won't be 3 of me, but I'll be running around to each location tomorrow on my official campaign vehicle, my scooter.
Be careful, please.
Yes, I will be. I will be out on my little scooter tomorrow, bouncing around from different locations, making sure that people understand that I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm so ready to take action.
Now, Nick,
I'm ready.
If folks tomorrow need to be able to get to the polls and can't,
Yes.
what do they do? I'm sure that you have a website, phone number,
Yes.
somebody they can call if they need a ride to the polls or have
Yes.
or have a question. What is that?
So a lot of people here in College Park have used the Nextdoor app. You can go on Nextdoor and look for me and send me a message and let me know that you need a ride to the polls. We do have a van available tomorrow, and I have received messages. Or my phone number is available on the College Park website, or 410-693-6352. You can call or text me, and I will make sure that you get a ride to the polls tomorrow. You can email me as well at nikki@nikishaponcho.com.
You got it ready. You're ready.
I am ready, and
Atta
we are
girl.
ready. We have a van and several cars ready to drive as many people to the polls as possible tomorrow.
All right. Well, listen, Nick, we'll be right back with you so we can get you back. We're going to have one more segment with you, but I know you got to get back on the phones and do the stuff you need to do to get ready for tomorrow. So we're not going to keep you too long. So just give me a second for a quick break, and we'll be right back to you here on the Michael Brown Show on WLVS.
All right.
Michael Brown Show here on WLVS. We're joined by Nikki Poncho, but it'll be
Yes.
Nikisha on the ballot. So
Yes.
if you want to vote for,
Nikisha Poncho.
you hear me saying Nikki, and then you go tomorrow and you get all confused because you don't see Nikki. It's Nikisha.
Right.
Nikisha Poncho will be on the ballot tomorrow, running for mayor in College Park, Maryland. And as she's running and as she's knocking on doors, she is telling folks about her 4-step plan of making College Park a better place. So, Nick, why don't you tell us about your 4-step plan?
So it's on my website, and it's a tab, and it's called the Master Plan. It's my master plan. And this is what I plan to do for College Park. I plan to protect and amplify the mantra, One College Park, by including and listening to all members of the community, especially our students and our business community, because I feel like relationships are important. Remember, I am a business major. Relationships are major. So my major part of the plan is sustainable business growth. Collaboration and inclusion is very important. During my door knock campaign, as I said before, I found out that a lot of members of our community feel like they're excluded when it comes to decision making in the community. And we have all of these committees on committees and all of these boards, and they feel like they're obsolete if no one's going to listen to them. So I want to bring that back. I want to make sure that everyone feels included. When decisions are being made, I want to make sure that everyone's sitting at the table so that everyone's voice is heard. I want more sustainable business growth here in College Park. We have way too many vacant spaces right now when it comes to our retail. That hurts our small business. It hurts our small businesses so bad to the point where we have the vacant spaces, so the rent rises in other areas. So if you're not getting the same foot traffic with the smaller businesses and their rent has risen, then they can't afford their rent. So now those spaces begin to close. So now it adds more vacant spaces to our city. So as we drive around College Park, we have more vacant spaces than we need, which is really hurting our small business community here. And I really want to help our small businesses sustain and stay in business, which means we have to do better and bring in more sustainable business. And I said to the students when we went to visit the University of Maryland, I want to hear from them. I want to know what else they like outside of pizza. And I told them, and they began to laugh. And I said, we are clear. College students love pizza. We have 900 pizza parlors here at College Park. What else do you like? And they laughed and they said, well, we would love to let you know. But it's important for us to make sure that we're bringing in businesses that everyone in the community wants to patronize, as well as communities outside of College Park, so we can bring that foot traffic in. And I also want to make College Park a more livable community for my seniors, my youth. We don't have a lot of youth programming here. And I think it's sad. I went and I had a day at Parkdale and I spoke to their SGA. And it was really, really amazing to talk to those kids. And they said to me, a lot of the kids at Parkdale are here, they're students, and they live here in College Park. And they asked me, what would you do for us? And I said, I would put more youth programming here, which means maybe a youth jobs program here in town. We have all of these businesses here. We have the University of Maryland here. We need to partner with the university and the businesses here and put a jobs program together, so that the children that go to school, that attend school at Parkdale, can possibly get jobs right here in the city in the summer. And then that way they don't have to worry about transportation. That also helps the city as well. That keeps our youth moving in the summer, and it keeps them out of trouble as well. I also have a smart fiscal plan where we need to do better appropriations of our funds. Right now, the city is in an uproar about a $40-some million city hall that's being built, $5 million turf on a field that no one really wants, and $1 million snack shack, when we have a building with 108 people living in it who are desperate for help. So we need better fiscal. We just need to appropriate our funds better. So I also have a plan for that. I plan to enhance the quality of life for everyone living in College Park with top-notch leadership, from our elected officials to our city employees and our contractors, Michael. That is my plan in my first year.
Boy, oh boy, you sound like the mayor already. What's and since obviously it doesn't quite touch the District of Columbia, but clearly it is a suburb of DC.
Yes.
What is crime like in College Park? Do you see any transferability between our jurisdiction and yours? Do you have your own separate problems with the university there? What do you have gentrification happening in College Park? What are kind of some of the backbone of why some folks have crime in their neighborhoods?
Well, yes. So we have our own separate problems here. So we don't have a police force, but we are fortunate that we have the University of Maryland Police Department that assists with policing the city. And then we have our camera system here in College Park. Now, when we did our debates, we did get a lot of questions around what will we do? Do we want a police force as candidates? And I did say, I was one of the people who said, I think we should have a police force so that our residents and our citizens feel safer here in College Park. And I understand what our residents were saying. And I spoke to a lot of residents after each debate when I said that. And I had residents who said the reason why they've always petitioned against the police force is because of what happens with the profiling. We have residents that are afraid that police will come into our city and be biased. And then we'll have the issues like what happened down in El Paso and Fort Worth, where the young lady was shot through the window by a police officer. They don't want that here in the city of College Park. And I said to those residents who did express that to me, I totally understand that. And it is unfortunate that that happens. And we in no way can say that it won't happen. You know, police officers are here to serve and protect. We have no idea when something like that is going to happen. So I understand why they petitioned for so many years not to have a police force. But because Route 1 is a state highway, we do have the state police that police Route 1. And then we have Prince George's County Police that also are in and out of our community. So like I said, we have different issues here. Our issues are more so of, we'll have maybe like break-ins of cars. A lot of car break-ins are happening lately. So that's been taken to the council to see how we can better solve that type of a problem. And then we'll have the issues with the students who will get a little rowdy on the weekend, which I spoke to the students about recently. And I said with them, I said, now don't go downtown and you guys get so drunk to the point where you're getting in trouble and the police are called because you're too loud, or you're peeing in someone's yard. That was a major issue. And I said, or you're mistaking your house for someone else's house and you're going in. So occasionally you will get something that'll say a break-in occurred, but we have more of just car break-ins than anything else here in College Park.
And Madam Mayor, excuse me,
yes.
Nick. Sorry.
Yes.
I thought you may like that. Did you like how that sounded? Did it sound all right?
Yes, it did. It sounded great.
Does just more of a in the weeds question? Does the University of Maryland, and I hope they're not listening, so I don't want to give them any ideas in case they don't, but do they ask for reimbursement from College Park residents for the policing they do in the city?
No.
So that's clearly an arrangement that's been around for, sounds like, decades, since you don't have your own police force.
Right. So what happens is, I was in a city council meeting recently when the University of Maryland did ask the city for some extra funding for more a camera system in the city, and they were asking for an extra $150,000 to kind of expand their system. So the University of Maryland, they will come to the city and they will ask for funding to help, which I didn't think was an issue. We don't have our own police force, and we are contracting out to the Prince George's County Police. And if the University of Maryland is willing to expand the camera system and they're willing to hire more people to watch those cameras and help us better police the city, I didn't think that $150,000 was a bad amount to help us help our citizens feel safer. But of course, the council turned them down. But there could be a new council in town.
Elections have consequences.
Exactly, they do. And like I said, it's important for our residents to feel safe. So whatever it takes to help them feel safe, I think it's important that our elected officials work hard towards that.
Well, I'm going to give you I know you're used to it after having all these debates.
Yes.
If you have a closing statement, but I can't give you the usual 3 to 5 minutes.
No.
But if you have a closing statement, Nick, you're more than welcome to give it now.
My closing statement is College Park. I am Nikisha Poncho, and I am ready to take action on everything that is needed to be done here. I am listening, College Park. I'll see you at the polls in the morning.
Let me just make sure I have this right. You can vote in 3 places in College Park:
Yes.
Ritchie Coliseum, the Student Union, and Davis Hall. If
Yes.
you need a ride to the polls, you can call 410-693-6352, or you can go on the app for Next Door, and they will make sure you can get a ride to
Yes.
the polls.
Yes.
Oh, and your website. Do your website
And
one more
my
time.
website.
Give it one more time.
You can go to nikishaponcho.com, or you can email me at Nikki, Nikki, at nikishaponcho.com, and let me know where you live and what time you want to ride, and we will be there to pick you up. And it's free of charge.
Now,
we will take you to the poll and take you right back home, safe and sound.
Perfect. Love to hear it. And let me tell you, you residents of College Park, the rest of Maryland and Virginia, it's going to be a nice day in the DMV. Nice day to vote. You have no excuse. Ms.
No.
Poncho gave you all the information you need, so you can't
Yes.
wake up Wednesday morning and say, oh, I didn't know who to call or what to do.
Right.
You have all the information you need. We don't want to hear it.
No.
So get out and vote. It's very important. Keep in mind
Yes.
that our ancestors
Yes.
bled and died for us to have the right to vote.
Yes,
and
they
we need
did.
to exercise it. One thing I did mention earlier, Nick, before you came on the show, we were talking about on the movie Harriet, about Harriet Tubman.
Yes, I had the opportunity to see that.
Well, my wife and I saw it this weekend. You need to get out once you're done. After you win tomorrow, make sure you take your daughter out to see it.
We saw
incredible.
it. We had the opportunity to see it.
Incredible.
It's an amazing movie, and everyone needs to get out and see that movie.
I just said the exact same thing. Let me tell you what I said, and I know you weren't on, and then I'll let you go because I know you got to get on the phone. I said, after watching that movie, and I wrote a paper on her when I was much younger, but I didn't have that kind of information. All I had was Encyclopedia Britannica.
Exactly.
I didn't have Google, and
Encyclopedia
Britannica did Harriet Tubman about like a paragraph.
Yes.
So my question to you is, and I'm not suggesting you name it now, just something to think about, is I find it hard to not have Harriet Tubman in the top 5 of most impactful women in U.S. history.
Yes, I do too.
I think it's
hard. Let me tell you, it's amazing. How do we not, when you watch that story, what she went through? She, by herself, traveled 100 miles to freedom, and then went back. How many times? They said 70 people she freed. By herself. She didn't take someone with her to help her. By herself. She was an amazing woman. Why is she not in the top 5? And when I saw that movie, I have to tell you, I stood up and I said, man, I feel like I'm in great company. Like it ignited something in me. Like I came out of the movie theater, and I think I normally hit the campaign trail at like 9:00 every morning. I think I hit it at 7:00 the next morning, and it was cold outside. I said, there's no excuse. If Harriet Tubman can do it by herself and I can get out here at any time of morning and work just as hard. So that determination it just made me feel really good inside. And I'm just so grateful that we had a woman like her to pave the way for someone like me to be able to do this right here, right now, to run in the race, to be the first African-American female to win in College Park. And we're going to make this happen tomorrow. We're going to make this happen.
Well, good luck to you.
Yes.
And we'll be wishing you congratulations tomorrow night when the polls close.
Yes.
And wish you a lot of luck. Thank you for joining us tonight, Nick.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, good luck. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Good night.
Welcome back to the Michael Brown Show. Boy, what a nice guest. And we're going to have guests like that with 2020 fast approaching throughout the year of candidates, not just here in the DMV, but around the country. They want to talk a little bit about what they're doing, why they're running, what they're running for and on. But clearly, getting quickly back to the Harriet Tubman issue. President Obama made history by making sure that Andrew Jackson was getting bumped off the $20 bill and Harriet Tubman put on. But of course, 45 and his administration has been a little slow in implementing it for obvious reasons. So after another president's elected in November, unless this president's removed from impeachment, we'll hopefully get a quicker response in getting Harriet Tubman on the 20 as quickly as possible. It's clearly well deserved. Now, I talked about impeachment a little bit before we get to the 2020 election. Now, as we roll through a very difficult and confusing time for a lot of people, now we're getting down to public hearings are going to start in the next couple weeks. The depositions have been released, so now the American people can read what's been happening, as Republicans have been talking about, behind closed doors for themselves. And it has been behind closed doors because Republicans have been in those rooms. And now you can examine for yourself what these witnesses are saying. Whether you believe there's a quid pro quo or not, clearly there is. Whether you believe whether it rises to the level of impeachment, what 45 did or not, which it did, it's now up to the American people. Clearly the polls are showing, not the 2020 polls, polls are showing that impeachment is now moving up. And not just impeachment to have 45 impeached, but also removed. So the next few weeks are going to be very interesting. The Democrats would like, Speaker Pelosi would like to have this wrapped up by the end of the year. It may creep into early January. And then a Senate trial, hopefully before Iowa caucuses and before the New Hampshire elections next year as the primary season gets rolling. And then obviously Super Tuesday in early March. So as you continue to watch your news and figure out what you're going to do, just stay engaged, stay involved. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook, The Michael Brown Show. We'll give you updates on different things happening with impeachment, or you can tweet at me at MABrownDC. Two troubling things happened in our country related to hate. Now, the first thing, for those who did not see, and for those who have visited the African American Museum downtown, I'm not sure if you stood in line to see the Emmett Till display, which is one of the more powerful things in the museum or exhibits. And it's something that not just the black community should remember, but all Americans should remember. But we had some knuckleheads, some racist knuckleheads, that have tried to do damage to the Emmett Till Memorial in Mississippi. And they stand outside and brag about what they want to do to the exhibit, brag about what they want to do to him, to his memorial, and do things that are just very unbecoming of Americans. In particular, to another American that suffered the kind of death that he did. So just keep those things in mind. If we didn't have so much hate coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, maybe those young men wouldn't have done it, but they feel they have a green light to do those things. And yes, I know he may not have been at that memorial, but some of us do blame 45 for the tenor he set in this country related to hate. Another very disturbing situation happened in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Happened to a Latino gentleman. And maybe we've all been there, but I know a lot of us have been, and that's fighting over a parking space. You want to get your point out, you say what you need to say, and you move on. Yes, sometimes it becomes fisticuffs, sometimes a little pushing and shoving, yelling and screaming. But what happened over the last couple of days is something that we should all be extremely concerned about the level of hate going on in our country. So again, this Latino gentleman and another gentleman were arguing over a parking space. And the white gentleman said to the Latino gentleman, "Go back to your country." Where have we heard that before? 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Well, interestingly enough, the Latino gentleman is a U.S. citizen. So going back to his country meant being here. So again, he profiled. But then what he did, and what he was doing carrying this in the first place, whole nother conversation. He had a jar of acid and threw the acid on the Latino gentleman right in his face. Burned his face, his neck, his eye. Clearly had to go to the hospital. Thank goodness there were cameras. And because of those cameras, a suspect has been arrested. And he will be charged with hate crimes along with assault, battery. I don't know what excuse he'll give. And what was he doing carrying a thing of acid anyway? So either way, hate is alive and well here in the United States of America. No, 45 didn't throw the acid on the gentleman. But boy, that gentleman that did throw the acid felt he had the green light to do it. And that's because of the leadership on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So yes, this commentator blames 45 for that. So let's just try to have a little more love rather than hate in our country. And, it's just very, it's very disappointing that one American would do that to another. We're going to take a real quick break, and we'll be back, talk about the 2020 election. And, of course, you know who's here today. It's Mr. Potato Head time in a couple minutes. We'll be right back after this break here on the Michael Brown Show. Welcome back to the Michael Brown Show. There's going to be a big debate on November 20th in Atlanta, Georgia. This will be for the Democratic candidates in the primary, getting ready to run for president. And interestingly enough, it'll be at the new Tyler Perry Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. So congratulations to Tyler Perry for hosting the debate. MSNBC will broadcast it along with the Washington Post. So make sure you are watching. Also, the PBS NewsHour and Politico will also co-host a debate December 19th in Los Angeles. So the 2020 election is, fast upon us. Candidates are kind of rolling. Some are getting out. Beto O'Rourke just got out a couple days ago. You'll start to see other candidates start to jump out really quickly because clearly they're running out of money. Support's not there. And they're going to end up making some decisions on who they're going to support in the Democratic primaries. It rolls through the winter, spring, the summer, the conventions, and then obviously the general election next November 3rd. Iowa's 90 days away. The first folks will vote in the Iowa caucuses, then New Hampshire, then Nevada, then South Carolina, and then in early March is Super Tuesday. And that's also a lot of the big states will vote. And then we should have an idea of who the Democratic nominee will be sometime in the spring. So with that, again, if you have any questions, you're all able to, when you follow us on Instagram or Facebook, The Michael Brown Show, or you can tweet at me, Mike, M.A. Brown, D.C. If you have any questions about what's going on, we'll answer them, and we'll make sure that you are able to do what you need to do, which is get out and vote, because elections do have consequences. Well, you know what it's time for. No one likes to see this happen. No one likes to see Mr. Potato Head. You know, every time I break it out, people start running. No one wants to be Mr. Potato Head Week. We've had athletes, entertainers, politicians. I think this is the first business person. Now, clearly, we have all been engaged about what's going on here in the Me Too movement. And very disappointed about how some of my fellow males have acted. Well, this Mr. Potato Head is Steve No Judgment Estabrook, the former CEO of McDonald's, who was in, he says, a consensual relationship with a subordinate. Whether it was consensual or not, it was against McDonald's policy. It just does not really match well with the Me Too movement. He made a mistake. There are consequences. So, Mr. Easterbrook, congratulations. You are this week's Mr. Potato Head for having poor judgment related to being CEO of McDonald's. So, by the way, you don't get this in the mail. We keep this here. We recycle Mr. Potato Head every week. That's it for our show. We'll have another packed show next week. And before we sign off, keep in mind, tomorrow in Maryland and Virginia, it's election day. So vote, vote, vote. And next up, with her bubbling personality and incredible smile, Busy with B. Michael Brown, WLVS. Thanks for joining us.